So we're invited to speak about our journey as a business, and the process hopefully will give you some hindsight moments that would have really helped me and us in our journey to date. So my name is Mark Lowry. I'm the owner and director of Twentysix Recruitment, and I've been in the recruitment industry for about 16 years now, 8 of those with Twentysix Recruitment.
And I'm Alan. I'm the senior consultant. I've been with Twentysix a year after its birth in 2012-13. 7 or 8 years later.
I know. Feels longer.
Yeah, it does.
So 2013 really was where it all started for me. It was actually 2012, it was probably about 8 months before that, when decided to start a recruitment business and sat in front of a computer for the first time and thought, okay, we're going to do it. And 3 hours later, voila, nothing, absolutely nothing, no idea where to start at all. And then it dawned on me that actually to try and plan to start a business is an incredibly overwhelming and daunting experience. And so I did what all good people do. I went to Google. How do I start a business? And I found a business planning tool, and that was where I started. So I set to work. Now, I'm not going to start telling you how to create a business plan. There are people out there far more qualified and learned than I for doing that. But what I do want to tell you today is, and also it's a very personal journey, I think, when you write a business plan. It really does depend on what you're trying to achieve, what kind of business you're trying to create. But what I do want to impress on you is the significance of it and how you cannot understate just how important that planning process is in the early stages. Now, pre-pandemic figures, the FSB reported that 20% of businesses usually fail in the first year. 1 in 5, that's massive. 60% in the first 5 years. And even when you're not out of the woods yet, so only 1 in 3 make it past that 10-year mark. So planning is so important. Now, it's the old analogy, and it goes on from years gone by, and it's that the journey. If you get in your car and you're going on a long, unknown journey for the first time, you plan for that journey, and a business is no different. So the devil is in the detail. So what we like to do is ask ourselves the questions, the hard questions. I think as humans, when we come up with a great idea, we gravitate towards all the niceness of that idea, and it's always going to work. It's going to look like this, it's going to be great, we're going to have branding, and we're going to make pens, and we're going to do all of this kind of stuff. But what you really need to be doing is asking yourself those hard questions. So how will I fund the business moving forward? What is the growth plan, and over what time scale? Yes, I want a £1 million, £2 million, £3 million, £4 million business, but is it realistic? And over what time scale do you look like you're going to achieve that? How much money will I make? £1 million! Everyone wants to be a millionaire, but the reality is, can you afford to pay yourself? If the answer is no, what you have is a job, not a business, and you have a very stressful job at that. Potential market share, where are we going to grow into? What is our potential here? If it's kind of limited, if you're limiting yourself, then you're stifling your growth before you've even started. And this is a question. Exit strategy. What happens if it all goes wrong? Plan for it. Walk yourself through it. How do we get out of this? If it all goes wrong at 6, 12, 18 months, 2 years, how can I walk away without losing the shirt on my back and the roof over my head? Plan for the eventuality. How do I fit into the marketplace? Is there someone already doing this? How am I going to do it better? How am I going to differentiate? Am I going to be quicker, faster, more professional? Am I offering a boutique service? Am I just going to sell it cheap and stack it high? Where am I going to operate as a business? And what are your competitors doing? Peep over the fence, have a look. See what they're up to. Are they leading the way in technology? Are they doing things that is spearheading the industry? Are you going to leave them behind with your initiatives? Always get an idea on what your competition are doing. Business intelligence is paramount. Now, the FSB also report that the survival rate of businesses is increased by 30% for those that plan effectively. Now, with such abysmal survival rates in the first year, 5 and 10, why wouldn't you give yourself the best opportunity to survive?
So the first takeaway point from this is to give yourself time to plan, do your research meticulously, and be honest with yourself, and don't be afraid to ask yourself difficult questions. Be realistic with your timescales, because it will always take 2 or 3 times longer than you think it will.
Yeah, good. So you've planned and now you're up and running. And as a new business, it's now time to start thinking about strategic partners. Who's going to help support you in your quest of growth? So the first tricky 12 months, always the same. Accounting, this is one area I want to touch on. Alan Milts is a leading, you may have heard of him, you may not. If not, look at him on YouTube. Alan Milts, he's an incredible guy. Leading business guru and a creator of Cash Flow Story. I have put a link to his stuff in the notes afterwards, which you'll be able to see. And he states that very few companies go out of business for lack of sales, but they do for lack of cash. So recognise your knowledge gaps. Be honest with yourself. Do I know everything about these areas of my business? Accounting is one of those areas. Don't hide from it. Make friends with it, understand it and embrace it. First things first, get a good accountant. Something everyone tells you when you start business. I remember saying to my dad when I was going to start the business about 9 years ago, thinking about starting a business. Oh really? Yeah, a recruitment company. Oh, you know what you need? What's that, Dad? You need to get a good accountant. Okay, what's one of them? Oh no. He had no idea, but it's a stock phrase that everyone says. So I'm going to tell you what one looks like. We're on our 5th accountant, by the way, so we've really road tested the market, you know. But now we know what we want, so we found the pitfalls. Firstly, consultative, okay? Accountancy is shrouded in mystery, and they like it like that, because that means that you keep coming to them to use their services, all right? So make sure that you find one that is consultative, one that is willing to help you, willing to coach you, and won't leave you feel embarrassed to ask what could be an obvious question. A good accountant will provide itemised services, bolt-ons if you like, a little menu. This is what we do, and you can choose to have as many of those or as little of those if you like. So things like running your PAYE, your VAT returns, it could be bookkeeping, director self-assessments, you might them to do your month end for you. All of those services should be able to be taken away and added at any given time, whether or at whatever stage in your growth stage your business is in, providing you with flexibility. One that's tech savvy. So are they across all of those platforms out there? Are they able to run your accounts on your chosen platform of choice? And then forward thinking as well, providing you with proactive ideas, ways of tracking and monitoring your financials and giving you the latest advice on helping you stay tax efficient. But for you as an individual, as a business owner, I can't stress enough, understand your accounts, understand them. You should be able to run your business off of 3 main reports. And that is a profit and loss, summary of your income against your fixed costs and your variable costs. Your cash summary, which is exactly what it says on the tin, summarises your cash transactions, collected, spent and retained. Your balance sheet, summary of company assets, of liabilities, and it's something that anybody that wants to invest in your business in the future, whether it be a bank or whether it be a lender of some description, will always visit your balance sheet first. Now, I've got to be honest with you, I ran Twentysix Recruitment for the first 2 years, not understanding what those 3 reports were. I ran it off of the bank balance. I've got money in the bank, that's all right. As long as I was selling, making bookings, placing candidates, and as long as I was getting money in, everything was fine. I was accepting clients regardless of payment terms. So 30 days, end of month, yeah, no problem. 45 days, no problem. 60 days, end of month on a start-up business doing temp recruitment, yeah, no problem. Business is business, right? I didn't know. And it wasn't until I actually got to grips with my accountancy strategy and got a handle on those 3 reports that I realised the danger of where I was as a business. So it's glaringly obvious. Raise an invoice on day 1, pay a temp worker on day 3 or 4, don't get paid until day 30, 45, 60, 90. Multiply that by 10, 20, 30 workers. The solution or the problem was glaringly obvious. We were essentially growing broke as a business. So that is where I would say to focus your efforts also. Getting the right software. Cloud-based solutions are flexible, cost-effective. There's lots out there now. Only get what you need. Don't be drawn in by the shiny stuff, the magpie. Oh, look at that. Oh, I'm going to really need that. You end up paying for it and you don't end up using it. And to reference, my first year, first accountant sold me Sage as an accountancy package, right? I mean, I was barely raising invoice value of 300 quid a week when I first started, you know, and he's given me Sage as the accountancy software, an amazing piece of kit. It was a sledgehammer to crack a nut, is what it was, and it absolutely petrified me. I clicked into it, looked around it, didn't understand it, came out of it, didn't go in it again. And I was too busy focused on growing the business, and I'll let the accountant, you deal with that. And you run my business and you tell me where I need to go. Unfortunately, he didn't do that. He just reported the figures, and that was it. The rest was left to me. So since then, by simply changing an accountant to the points that I raised earlier, one that's consultative and that can help, and choosing the right software to be simple and the right fit for you, means that we changed our whole approach to managing our financials.
So the takeaway point number 2 is to ask questions. There are no stupid questions when it comes to your money and your business. If you don't get the questions and you don't understand them, ask for explanations, as they may not be the answers your business needs. If they're not, go and find the answers you need elsewhere. Take time to understand and interpret your accounts, because an accountant isn't there to run your business, that's your job.
It is, yeah, absolutely. So, moving on to the next point, which is funding. Very big, especially if you're running a temp recruitment or contract recruitment based company. Funding is at the forefront. Now, your understanding of funding should equal that of your accountancy knowledge. It's seldom will you see a startup business that's running those temp and contract recruitment based model have the liquidity that's needed in order to fund that level of cash flow as well as the day-to-day operation. So today I want to look at the 2 most popular forms of funding around this route, and according to my experience, and there are lots of different options out there at the moment, but certainly I want to look at factoring and invoice financing. Now, in the early days creating a business, you know, you're busy, you're in the build phase, you're generating those clients, you're making contacts, you're putting workers out, you're raising invoices, you're doing everything. You're the head chef and chief bottle washer. That is what you are. Completely focused on making cash. So, time is the most important commodity that you have when you first start. So, to look to maximise productivity, you have to outsource certain functions that perhaps could reduce that impact on your time. Now, in some instances, outsourcing, it won't be the most cost-effective or cheapest way of operating, but sometimes the net savings will outweigh the cost. Using a factor or invoice financing facility does exactly that. So, factoring in short, a factoring facility will purchase your sales invoices from you and make available a percentage of cash for you to cash flow your operation. That's it in short. Your sales invoices will go out with your branding on, but it'll have their bank details at the bottom, which means they own the debt and they collect on your behalf. So they contact your clients and credit control your accounts for you. Great. Important though, they are having the verbal interactions with your clients, so you have to make sure that those interactions are toned in the right way. Many a client has been lost through poor credit control credit control methods, so please be aware of that. Client relationships, so factoring, it's incredibly convenient. It's the reason why lots of people do it. Reason why I did it as a startup company, I didn't have the time for that. I needed to outsource so I could do what I needed to do to grow the business. So it's incredible for that. It's a one-stop shop, but the fees involved are slightly higher, so you do pay for that. Factoring can be more or less a fixed fee structure based upon a percentage of your sales invoices that you raise. And most invoice factors will give you a loan to invoice value of a maximum of 90 days. So your credit controlling or your client payments have to be kept on top of, because after 90 days, they take the money back from you. Now, we've used factoring for quite a few years, and it served us really well. The roadmap for our funding was always a step-down approach, so from full factoring to invoice financing and then finally to self-funding within the business. The other product I want to talk very briefly about is invoice financing. Now, in contrast to factoring, invoice financing is a much more flexible solution, slightly cheaper. However, more onus is placed on you as the business owner to have the supportive processes in place to facilitate this type of product, and I'll explain. Whereby factoring takes the admin, credit control, bank reconciliation, gives you a little bit of money, takes a fixed fee, job done, that's it, all nicely tied up. Invoice financing does the opposite of that. It provides you with quick access loans against your sales invoices, but you are solely responsible for ensuring the debt is chased and repaid to the facility. Fee structure is percentages based on borrowing, so it's slightly different. However, you have to make sure that you have the supportive departments in place to manage that kind of facility. Do you have the functionality to credit control your own accounts? Do you have the software in place to raise your own sales invoices? Carefully consider how, when this function is carried out and by who. Poor credit control processes now create problems with cash flow. But it does offer flexibility, and that's the main point. I think it was a step-down approach to this facility. Online platforms for invoice financing allow greater flexibility. You can select what companies you want to run your invoices through. So those clients that you have who are really good payers and pay in a short amount of time, they give you an opportunity to self-fund those rather than put those through a facility and perhaps save yourself a little bit of money in the meantime. So invoice financing, considerably cheaper option. Reinvesting the savings into supporting a more standalone facility, such as staff to manage that process, or maybe more complex software systems.
So the takeaway point number 3 is work out whether or not a funding option is right for your business. If it is, shop around. Don't take the first thing on offer. Understand how each model works and make sure it's not always the cheapest option, that is not always the best option. Take time to understand the financial impact of funding your business through these options and have a timescale to try and self-fund.
Great. Okay. So next is investment. Now you've got a little bit of money behind you. Now you've got the business moving. You're making money. Cash flow is good. You're now looking at areas in which you can improve your business and make that investment. Now, unfortunately, a nice new Mulberry handbag, all right, shiny new Rolex, that's not a company investment, all right, that's just a cost. Investments need to be, or ideally would be, for the physical growth of the business, invested in the systems and processes, specialist consultants, whether that be marketing or whether you want to invest in your own personal development through business coaching. Anything that you spend for the purposes of improving your offering or operation is seen as an investment. It provides a return larger than the initial sum. So where do you start? Now remember the plan. The plan is the destination, is the roadmap to your destination, and that should trigger the investment opportunities at certain milestones when you achieve them. It could be anything. When we reach a certain turnover, we'll invest in X, Y, Z. If we make a certain net profit on a consistency basis, we'll add another head into the business. Whatever the triggers are would be outlined on your business plan. So we asked ourselves some simple questions around investment. What will give us more time? And time to be more productive, or maybe allow us to develop the business further? What will improve the efficiencies of our business? Faster fill rates, faster billing. How can we reduce mistakes? And not just operationally, but financially and commercially. And what will make us more professional in our approach, our outward facing brand? How can we improve a better experience for our clients, workers, and those that make up our supply chain? Now, all the answers had the same thing in common. They had technology at the core. And this is the thing that we focused on, quite simply. And our brief became very, very simple. To automate or streamline as much of our work processes as possible, reducing human intervention and therefore the scope of error. So that was our brief on investment. So we looked at CRM, because that there is the orchestra. Is the conductor of the orchestra of any business, of any recruitment company. And we learned quite quickly, we're on our 5th CRM now, the rule of 5, we're on our 5th CRM now, so you don't learn quickly. I think we learned over time and at cost, but you find out that you don't know what you need until you don't have it. And that was it, wasn't it? Oh, I wish it did that. Oh no, 2-year contract. So it was clear we need a system. On assessing our business, we needed a system that would connect our front office operation of candidates, client management, placements and bookings through to a mid-office system for raising our invoices and processing our payroll, pushing through to a back office system for our accountancy package, and then on to reconciling our funding arm. Does such a system exist? That was the question. And also at a cost that doesn't bankrupt the business. So that was that. Now add in wish list. What does it need to do? Well, first of all, it needs to manage temp recruitment, because while there are lots and lots of CRMs out there, you'll see loads of them in here today, all amazing products, not everything will do everything you need it to do. So you have to make sure that you're road testing these things in the right way. So we was looking at temp recruitment. Does it allow configuration to fit into our current business processes? Will it accommodate the automation of timesheet submissions? Really important these days. Does it cope with compliance of AWR and IR35 now? So that was the challenge that we set ourselves. Now, most products that we road tested would do some, but not all, as I said. But we weren't about to settle for anything short of what we saw as our vision moving forward. Now, we approached the Kiru people, the guys that are in charge, that oversee Voyager Infinity product. And I've got to be honest, we did it with the same amount of scepticism and cynicism as we did approaching any other sort of software provider, because we know they show you the best things, the things that it can do. Oh, look at this. Oh, look. Alan and I are both magpies. We love the shiny stuff. Oh, look. And then you get it and realise it doesn't do what you need it to do. Ooh, backpedal. But we were incredibly lucky. We discovered that we now have a system in Voyager Infinity that provides all of the above. We have found ourselves a strategic partner, and I do believe that they will help us deliver our vision for the future, supporting the 360 life cycle, both our clients and our candidates, and the scope to facilitate our growth.
So takeaway point number 4 is to interrogate and pick holes. Don't be afraid to get demo number 2, 3, 4 if you need it. Ask questions, and don't be a magpie like Mark and I and look at the shiny things. Be clear on your needs, unwavering in your objectives, and above all else, follow your original plan.
So, thank you for your time today. Now, before we go, I did promise in the slide 5 takeaway points. We've only had 4 so far. So the last one really is about mindset. And without it, when you're running a business or starting a business, without the right mindset, everything becomes not only irrelevant, but completely unachievable. The next slide I wanted to show you were the notes that I made while I was sat in the audience of the Expo. And the date is the 2nd of October 2013. Probably can't see that. We're only 3 months old as a business. And I think sitting in and listening to all of the presentations through that time and taking away so much of that information really cemented into my mind that I wanted to bring Twentysix to life. So if you're today sitting in here with aspirations to start, or have started, or 6 months or 12 months in, you know, the real hard slog that you will be in at the moment, the final point, the takeaway point is specifically for you guys.
So the final takeaway point is, whatever the mind conceives, the body can create. Be bold and be brave.
Thank you very much for your time today. Thank you.